In one of the classic books describing gambling techniques, Erdnase, the expert at the card table, one move is described as being harder to learn than any other in gambling technique, the technique of second dealing. That is, not dealing the top card of the pack, but dealing the second card down. Let me show you 2 or 3 second deals so you'll see exactly how they work, and then I'll give you the lowdown on exactly how to do them. Assuming, for example, a good card, the ace o' clubs, is on top of the pack, in a 4-player game, here's one way to do it. I deal to player 1, player 2, player 3, but I keep that ace of clubs on top of the pack for myself. In a stud poker game, I'd now have to deal face up. I can still second deal under these conditions, keeping the ace o' clubs on top. One subtle variation would be to deal from the front of the deck, exactly as they do in a pub game, and yet still keep that ace o' clubs on top. So how does the cheat achieve this miraculous technique? Here's how with the card face up, so you can see exactly how it works. This is a push-off second deal as opposed to a strike deal, which means the first thing the cheat does is pushes 2 cards off as 1. 2 cards here. This is done with the thumb on the edge of the deck. As the deck tilts in, 2 cards are pushed. The right thumb then drags across this top card, only glancing across it. You don't want it to move. So it's up, across. At this point, the left thumb pulls this card back, and the second card down is dealt all the way round the table. To do the stud deal, you do exactly the same push-off, but a slightly different take technique. So 2 go over, and the fingers go on top, thumb underneath, as so. To do the last second deal we did, again the same push-off, the same drag of the thumb, but the card is turned as you go and take it. Now, leaving the ace face up, here they are again for your learning pleasure. So you push 2, deal down, push 2, deal down, and practice hard till you get up a learning speed. For the stud deal, take from the back. For the front stud deal, just turn the card as you deal them off and take it. But how would a cheat use a second deal in a game? Because, as I'm sure anybody who's involved with gambling is well aware, a cheat would never do continuous second deals. He'll merely use it on the occasion it's going to help him. Here's how he'd use it in a 3-card brag game, a popular pub game in Britain. 3 aces, a great hand. Let's say he's already stacked those aces for a 4-handed game he's playing in. So in between each ace, he's managed by using his nefarious technique to gain 3 cards. Suddenly a 5th man joins the game. Now this is dangerous for the cheat. He can't refuse the man entry, it would look too suspicious, but he can't adjust his stack. This is where he'll use the second deal. So he deals to player 1, to player 2, to player 3. Second deals on player 4, keeping the ace for himself. Then player 1, player 2, second, second, keeping the ace for himself. Player 1, second, 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 and keeps that final ace for himself. And that's the way a cheat would use a second deal in a real card game. It's very common in pub games for a guy to be drinking his beer or smoking a cigarette while he's dealing the cards. The second dealer is at a tremendous disadvantage here because he now has to second deal one-handed. It's very easy to do a magician's-y type move, but it's very difficult to actually do a normal type deal one-handed. But with a bit of practice, it can be done. The card I want to keep is the King o' Diamonds. There are 3 players in the game. I deal to player 1, player 2, and I keep that King of Diamonds for myself. Here's how it's done with the card face up. Again, you have the push-off of 2 cards. The thumb simply pushing 2 cards over. The hand flexes back, and it's a throwing motion that's going to take that second card out from under the top one. It's impossible to do slow because it's the inertia of the card spinning that does it. Dealing, 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 and keeping the top card for yourself. A one-handed second deal, so you too could second deal while drinking a pint of beer. A technique used very often by trainee second card dealers, i.e. those who can do some of the move but not all of it, goes as follows on a professional card table, and it's used a lot more often than you'd think. Let's say I'm playing head-to-head poker, that's mano-y-mano, me against one other player. I'll deal the hand as follows. One for you, one for you, one for you, one for me. One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. 5 cards to each player. My opponent has 5 cards. I have 9 cards. Exactly half a second deal. What he's doing, he deals 1 card to the opponent, 1 card to himself. 1 card to the opponent, 2 cards to himself. 1 card to the opponent, 2 cards to himself, 1 card to the opponent, 2 cards to himself, 1 card to the opponent, 2 cards for himself. At speed, the deal is very difficult to follow. It's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. The cheat's got his 9 cards. To complete your education in this particular move, the cheat obviously won't do this to fan out his cards. The cheat will actually fan his cards upside down in his hands. It looks like a very awkward way to hold your cards, but in fact is a technique used by professional poker players to stop other people peeking at their own cards. The cheat, for those of you that are non-bona fide gamblers and are wondering what's the advantage of having all these extra cards, will pick the best 5 cards from his hand. He'll move them to the back of the hand and at one point will call for extra cards, as you can do in draw poker. He might call for 2 cards, throwing 5 away onto the discard pile. Now he's left with the exact number of cards he needs. And as my granddaddy used to say, if you can't win a poker game when you pick the best 5 out of 9 with a change added on, then you shouldn't be in the game. Possibly the most famous move of gambling cheats is the bottom deal. That's where not the top card, not the second card, but the bottom card of the pack is dealt. Let's use 3 aces here to show you a 4-handed game of 3-card brag. The cheat deals out the hands as so. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. The sort of deal that would pass muster in even a large money game. But there are no aces on the bottom. The aces are all here in the cheat's hand. 4-handed game. So how does the cheat achieve the bottom deal? It's actually in 2 stages. To make it easier for you to see, I'll put the aces face up on the bottom. The first stage of the deal is for the cheat to flex with the second finger. He's flexing down this bottom card, and in a moment he's going to push it out as so. So the deck is held in an almost standard mechanics grip. The second finger flexes and is then going to push. Split into 2 parts, and here's how he splits it. As he deals to player number 1, he flexes the card around the edge of the deck. So to player 1, the card is now flexed. Player 2, player 3, as he comes to deal to himself, that's when he does the push out. So player 1, the card is flexed. Player 2, player 3, to himself. Last one real slow. Player 1, player 2, player 3, and player 4. A very important point of the bottom deal is the rhythm of the deal. What you do when you learn any form of fake dealing is you learn the fake deal first, then you make your real deal look like the fake one. Don't try it the other way around. It's impossible. Just for your fun, a few face-up cards on the bottom of the pack, and this is a good way to practice bottom dealing, would be to deal top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. That's the way the pros practice, and as far as I know, that's the only way to learn it properly. Now, to bottom deal from a is slightly different to bottom dealing face down, but again, there are techniques to do it, and as you'll see in a moment, there are even techniques to do bottom dealing one-handed. Here's how you do a stud deal from the bottom of the deck. So, again, 3 aces on the bottom. This time we'll just have a 2-player game, make it hard for me. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 3 aces in my hand. So how does the cheat do a stud bottom deal? It's almost identical to the normal bottom deal, simply the grip of the take is different. Again, he's flexing out that bottom card. As it comes out, he's this time not taking this way, but from the top, and spinning the card as he does so. Turn a card face up to make it more obvious. As he comes in, he does this. And again, the way to practice is to turn and deal top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Always try and deal alternates, because then you make your real deal look exactly the same as your fake deal. But one-handed bottom dealing, what of that? The technique is almost identical to a normal bottom deal, except of course you don't use your other hand. Here's how he does it. As he deals to his opponent, once more he'll flex the card down with a second finger. So he deals here, and at that point the card is flexed. As he deals to himself, these fingers will push the bottom card out and the deck will move away. So here he deals to the opponent, and to himself, push and turn. At speed, it looks like this. And again, to practice, you practice top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. All it is you're flexing, pushing, and turning. And that's how you do a one-handed bottom deal. For a cheat to use second or bottom dealing, he really needs to know what the top and bottom cards of the deck are, unless of course he's controlled them there. If a shuffle deck's been handed to him, he can find this information out by use of peeking. Let's take a number of peeks here. Assume I'm playing stud poker. This is my hand. I need to know the top card of the deck. By looking at my hole card, I can also peek the top card of the deck, the 6-0 diamonds, by use of a bubble peek. Now this is how the bubble peek works. As I lift this card, I'm not looking at it. It's pushing on the top card of the deck, pushing a blister as it's known in the trade, or pushing a bubble to allow me to see the index of the top card of the deck. To see the bottom card of the deck, I can use what they call a pull bubble peek, which goes like this. The cheat squares the cards. The bottom card is buckled back, enabling him to see exactly which one it is. From the front, the pack is apparently squared, but the cheat sees that bottom card. Now, if you're going to do serious bottom dealing, what you can also do underneath the pack is to push the bottom card across and double bubble to see 2 out of the bottom cards. Ready for your bottom dealing techniques. And remember, at the end of the day, you won't see anything other than that at the table, as the cheat squares the deck, having peeked top and bottom cards. Now, the low-down petty hustler won't go so far as to learn, well, not so much advanced sleight of hand, but any sleight of hand. He'll do it much more easily. How many times have you seen somebody shuffle like this? That very process gives me the top 2 cards and the bottom 2 cards. Here's how. As I shuffle the cards, nothing sneaky yet. As the cheat squares the cards up on the table here, what he'll do, he'll lift with his fingers, allowing the top 2 cards to be seen, drop his thumb, allowing the bottom 2 cards to be seen, and then as he squares the whole pack up, remember them. And if you don't think that knowing the position of 4 cards in a game would give you an advantage, let me tell you, knowing the position of just 1 game would give you around an 11% advantage. 4 cards knowledge makes it stone-walled. A technique used by professional cheats who've pre-stacked a whole deck. In other words, they're going to switch a deck in, which is known as the Iron Man or a cooler. Iron Man because it just can't be beaten, and a cooler because the cards are supposedly cooler than those that have been in play, is as follows. The deck is switched in. Now the cheat has to shuffle and cut the cards. So he cuts the cards, shuffles up, gives the pack a couple of cuts, and everybody's happy that the whole game is au fait. It's all fair, with one thing wrong. The one thing wrong being that the cheat, during the shuffle and cut, has left the deck in exactly the same Iron Man order. So how does he do this? Let's turn half the deck face up so it's easier to follow. It's a technique known as the push-through shuffle. The cheat cuts this way. He riffles down a few cards from the right-hand section and then genuinely shuffles the others together, letting a few from the right-hand section fall on top. As the cards are apparently squared, they're not. As the two halves come together, they're put through diagonally. Again, now as they're squared, the two halves